He slapped me at his birthday party, in front of all his friends, his family, and mine. But you know what I gave him in return? A restraining order, served cold. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. I had spent days planning the perfect gift for Cole. He was turning 30, and I wanted to make it special. We had been together for 3 years, and even though things hadn't always been perfect, I still believed in us. I bought him a beautiful silver watch and had it engraved with the words, "Forever yours." I thought it would be a step forward in our relationship, maybe even a sign of our future. The party was held at his parents' house. It was packed with people, his friends from work, his family, even a few of mine. I was nervous, but excited. I dressed up, wrapped the gift carefully, and kept smiling even though Cole had barely spoken to me all day. As the evening went on, Cole started drinking. A lot. I could tell he was getting irritated, but I didn't know why. Then, out of nowhere, he pulled me aside and whispered something ugly. He accused me of cheating, loud enough that a few people turned to look. I was stunned. I tried to calm him down, asked him where this was coming from, and that's when it happened. He slapped me, right across the face. The music didn't stop, but it felt like the whole room did. People stared. My ears rang. I just stood there, frozen. I couldn't cry. I couldn't speak. I just held the watch in my hand like an idiot, my fingers shaking. Nobody moved to help me. Not his friends, not his parents. Just silence. He yelled that I deserved it, that I brought it on myself. I didn't stay. I walked out. I didn't even say goodbye. As I stepped outside, Cole's brother Andrew followed me. He handed me my coat and said quietly, "You didn't deserve that." That's when I finally broke. Tears fell down my face. I had been holding everything in for too long. That slap hurt more than just my cheek. It woke me up. All the little things I ignored, the yelling, the jealousy, the way he isolated me from my friends, they all came rushing back, and I realized I had been living in fear, not love. That night, I didn't go home to Cole. I went to my sister's, and in the morning, I called a lawyer, because I wasn't going to let that slap be the end of my story. It was just the beginning. When I first met Cole, he seemed like everything I'd ever dreamed of. He was charming, smart, and always knew the right thing to say. He held doors open, sent me good morning texts, and remembered the little things, like my favorite coffee or how I liked my eggs. My friends were impressed. Even my mum, who trusted no one, said he seemed like a real gentleman. For the first few months, I was floating. He made me feel special, wanted, safe. I told myself I'd finally found someone who really saw me. But now, when I look back, I see things I didn't want to admit at the time, like the way he snapped at the waiter on our third date because his steak was overcooked. It made me uncomfortable, but he laughed it off later, saying, "I don't accept bad service." I let it go. I told myself maybe he just had high standards. Then there were the questions. At first, they seemed caring. "Where are you headed, babe? Who's going to be there? Why didn't you text back right away?" I thought he just missed me. I even felt a little flattered. But over time, it became clear. They weren't questions, they were checks. He'd get quiet if I went out with my friends. He'd sulk for hours if I didn't answer a call. Once, he even showed up at my job during lunch just because I hadn't replied fast enough. He said he was just worried, but his eyes told a different story. And yet, I stayed. Because in between the bad moments were flowers, date nights, and sweet messages that made me feel like maybe I was imagining the rest. I told myself every couple has rough patches, that I just needed to be more patient, more loving, more careful. But now, thinking about everything, how he turned so fast, how he hit me at that party, I realized the perfect boyfriend never existed. He was a mask, a performance, and I believed it because I wanted to. I thought I was building a future with someone good, but the truth is, I was slowly getting trapped by someone who just knew how to play nice until he didn't want to anymore. The first time Cole hurt me, really hurt me, I told my sister I slipped on the stairs. I even laughed a little when I said it, like it was nothing. Jenny raised an eyebrow, touched the purple mark on my arm and asked, "Are you sure?" I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, I'm just clumsy." That was the first bruise I lied about. It happened after a small fight. At least that's what I thought it was. He'd gotten upset because I was late getting home from work. I had stayed behind to help a co-worker with a deadline. Cole didn't like that. He said I cared more about other people than I did about him. I tried to explain, told him it wasn't like that, but he didn't want to hear it. He grabbed my arm, tight, and pulled me toward him. His voice was low and angry, his fingers digging into my skin. It only lasted a few seconds. He let go, apologized right away, and even looked shocked at what he'd done. I remember standing there, rubbing my arm, and hearing him say, "I didn't mean it. You just made me so mad." And I nodded. I actually nodded. I told him it was okay. It wasn't okay, but I told myself it was, that he was stressed, that it wouldn't happen again. That's when I made a quiet deal with myself. I'd just be more careful. I'd try harder not to upset him. I thought if I kept the peace, things would go back to the way they were in the beginning, when he was sweet, when he made me feel like the most important person in the world. So I stayed. I made excuses. For him, for myself. I told Jenny that I fell. I told my co-workers that I was tired, that everything at home was fine. I even convinced myself for a while. I let one bruise turn into silence, and that silence grew louder with time. Cole didn't hit me again right away. That's the thing. He knew how to pace it. Sometimes he'd be loving and gentle, bringing home takeout and kissing me on the forehead. Then, when the anger came back, it came harder, his words sharper, his grip tighter. But every time I thought about leaving, I remembered that first lie. I thought if I could lie once, I could lie again. That if I just kept pretending, the bruise would fade, not just on my arm, but in my heart. Now, looking back, I know that was the moment I started losing myself. Not when he hurt me, but when I decided to hide it. When I chose to protect him instead of protecting me. That first bruise wasn't just on my skin. It was a warning, and I ignored it. It didn't happen all at once. That's what I need you to understand. Cole didn't just come into my life and say, "Stop seeing your friends." He was smarter than that. It was slow, quiet, almost gentle. At first, he was friendly with my circle. He'd come out with us, make everyone laugh, pick up the tab. My best friend, Tasha, said, "You've got a good one, Sam." And I believed her. But after a few months, things started to change. Cole began pointing out little things. "Don't you think Tasha talks about herself too much? Mark always flirts with you. It's disrespectful. I feel like your friends don't really want us to be happy." At first, I brushed it off, but he kept saying it, over and over. Then came the guilt trips. "Why would you go out with them when you could spend the night with me?" Or, "I had such a bad day, but I guess your friends are more important." I didn't want to hurt him, so I stayed home more. I started cancelling plans. The invitations slowed down. I stopped getting texts. Tasha tried to talk to me once, told me she was worried, that I wasn't myself. I told her she didn't understand. I said Cole loved me. I thought she was being dramatic. Eventually my world shrank down to just him. And because I'd pushed everyone else away, I didn't even notice how alone I was until it was too late. When I got the invitation to Cole's birthday party, I felt excited, nervous, but excited. I wanted to make it special, to remind him of the good in us. I even bought him a watch and had it engraved, "Forever yours." I thought it might bring us closer again. I didn't know that night would be the end of everything. Looking back now, I see how carefully he built the walls around me, cutting me off from anyone who might help me leave. I thought it was love when he said, "I just want you all to myself." But it was never love. It was control, and it worked, for a while. Until that night at the party, when everything shattered, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the truth. The night of Cole's birthday party, I felt hopeful. Nervous too, but mostly hopeful. I had spent weeks planning his gift, thinking maybe it would remind us of the good times. The watch I picked was simple and elegant, just like him. I had it engraved with 2 words, "Forever yours." I arrived a little early. His family was already there, and some of his friends I hadn't seen in a while. People smiled at me, but it didn't feel warm. It felt polite, cold. I tried to brush it off. Maybe I was just overthinking things. Cole showed up fashionably late, already a little tipsy. He kissed my cheek quickly, barely even looked me in the eye. That was my first clue. The second came when he opened gifts. I handed him mine with a quiet smile. He opened it, stared at the watch for a moment, and then forced a laugh. "Forever yours, huh?" he said loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Even after everything you've been doing behind my back?" I blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" I said softly, trying to keep my voice calm. That's when everything turned. Cole stood up and raised his voice. "You think I don't know? You think I'm stupid? I've seen the messages. I've heard the rumors. People stopped talking. Music kept playing in the background, cheerful and wrong." I shook my head, heart thudding in my chest. "Cole, I haven't done anything." He took 2 fast steps toward me. I didn't even see his hand coming, Just felt the sharp sting on my cheek and the sound, loud and cracking, like a firework in a silent room. Everything stopped. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a glass. I stood frozen. My face burned, but not just from the slap, from the humiliation, from the heartbreak, from the realization that the man I loved had just hit me, in front of everyone. Cole stood over me, chest rising and falling, his eyes wild with rage. "You deserved that," he spat. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just stared at him, wondering who this person was. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw his younger brother, Andrew, quietly walk over. He picked up my coat and handed it to me without a word. I took it slowly. My hands shook. As I walked out the door, no one stopped me. No one followed. My ears were ringing. My eyes burned with unshed tears. But I kept walking. That night was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it became my awakening. The moment I realized I'd been loving someone who never really saw me, who never respected me. And in that silence, after the slap, after the shame, I found something unexpected. Clarity. Everything after the slap felt like a dream, a bad one I couldn't wake up from. The music stopped. The room was silent, but not empty. Eyes were on me, wide, shocked, some even looking away like they couldn't bear to see. And yet, no one moved. No one stepped forward. Not one person said, "That's not okay." Cole stood there, breathing heavy, face red. "You deserved that," he shouted, as if saying it louder would make it true. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat felt tight, my hands numb. My cheek still stung from his hand, but it was nothing compared to the heat of shame crawling through my skin. I looked around the room, at the people who were supposed to be my friends, my second family. His mother looked away. His friend Jake stared at the floor. Someone whispered, but I couldn't catch the words. Not one person came to me. My feet started moving on their own. I didn't even remember grabbing my purse. I just turned and walked out the front door like I had somewhere to be, like I wasn't falling apart inside. Outside, the air was cold and quiet. For a moment, I just stood there, unsure of what to do next. I didn't have a car. Cole had driven us. I didn't even know where my coat was. And then I heard the door open gently behind me. It was Andrew, Cole's younger brother. He didn't say anything at first, just held out my coat, his face unreadable. When I took it from him, my fingers brushed his. I was still shaking. "You didn't deserve that," he said quietly. Just 5 words. That was it, but it broke something in me. My eyes filled with tears so fast I couldn't stop them. I pressed the coat to my chest and finally let myself cry. Big, ugly sobs that I tried to muffle but couldn't. Andrew didn't hug me. He didn't try to fix it. He just stood there and let me cry. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel completely alone. The silence after the slap was deafening. But in that silence, someone finally saw me. I didn't sleep the night after the party. I just sat on my bed, coat still on, staring at the journal I kept hidden at the back of my closet. It was a plain black notebook, nothing fancy. But inside, it held everything. I had started writing in it months ago, mostly to keep track of Cole's moods. One day he'd be warm and loving. The next he'd be yelling because I didn't answer my phone fast enough. At first, it was just for me, to help make sense of things. But soon, I began writing down more, specific days, exact words, even things I was too ashamed to say out loud. Now, sitting there with my cheeks still sore, I realized something. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. This was real, and I had proof. The next morning, I called a lawyer. His name was Mr. Harlan. The receptionist squeezed me into a late afternoon slot. I walked in gripping my journal like a lifeline, hands sweating, heart racing. He was older, calm, with kind eyes. He asked why I was there. I hesitated, then opened the journal and started reading. January 14th, I began. He grabbed my phone out of my hand and threw it against the wall because I didn't reply fast enough. He said I was probably texting someone else. I flipped to another page. February 9th, he told me if I ever left him, he'd ruin my life. Said no one else would want me. I kept reading. More dates, more details. Bruises I wrote down, but never showed. The night he followed me home from work. The time he slammed the car door inches from my leg. Mr. Harlan listened silently, hands folded. He didn't interrupt once. When I finally stopped, my throat dry and voice shaking, I looked up, unsure what I'd see on his face. He nodded slowly. "You've done something incredibly smart, Samantha," he said. "You've documented everything. That journal, it's powerful. And yes, "You have enough." I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I exhaled. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel powerless. I didn't feel like a scared girlfriend hiding in someone else's shadow. I felt like someone who had something Cole couldn't control, the truth. And I was ready to use it. The courthouse smelled like paper and nerves. I sat beside Mr. Harlan, my lawyer, as he slid the restraining order across the table for me to sign. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. I signed it. That signature felt like the first thing I'd done for myself in a very long time. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It was protection. It was proof. It was me finally saying, enough. We agreed the best place to serve Cole was his job. He worked at an auto dealership, the kind with glass windows and forced smiles. I didn't want to be there, but I didn't have to be. Mr. Harlan arranged for a court officer to deliver it for me. Still, I waited outside in my car across the street, heart thumping like it wanted to escape. I watched the front door like it was a movie, and then I saw him, Cole, standing tall, joking with a co-worker. Then the officer walked in, holding the envelope. Cole's smile dropped as the officer approached him. He opened the envelope. I couldn't hear anything, but I could see his mouth move. "What the hell is this?" He looked around, probably expecting me to be somewhere nearby. When he couldn't find me, he threw the envelope down and stormed back inside. His face twisted in anger, then confusion, and then fear. It was the most satisfying thing I'd ever witnessed. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted closure. I wanted him to know he couldn't just hurt me and walk away like it was nothing. I wasn't hiding anymore. That evening, he started calling. First once, then 6 times. Then came the texts. "Please talk to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. You're ruining my life. I love you." But I didn't answer. Not a word. I just blocked every number he used. Because those words, I'd heard them before. After every bruise, every scream, every silent night. But this time, I didn't cry. I didn't question myself. I just watched my phone go quiet. And for the first time, the silence felt safe. After the restraining order was served, everything around me felt like it was cracking and settling into something new. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, uncertain. I didn't know what to expect next. But I didn't expect the phone call I got 2 days later. It was Andrew, Cole's younger brother. "Hey," he said gently. "I just wanted to check on you. What happened? It wasn't okay. I'm sorry." That simple sentence, coming from someone who shared blood with Cole, meant more than I could say. I hadn't even realized how alone I felt until he called. We talked for a while. He didn't try to defend Cole. He didn't ask questions that made me feel small. He just listened. A few days later, his Aunt Claire called too. She said, "I always knew something wasn't right with him, but I didn't know it was this bad. I'm proud of you for getting out, Samantha." Their kindness gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time. Permission to believe I wasn't crazy, and that walking away had been the right thing. But it wasn't that simple with everyone. Cole's parents called my sister Jenny's house, where I had moved in. His mother left a long voicemail, her voice sharp, controlled. "You didn't have to go that far," she said. "You've embarrassed our whole family. You ruined his life." I didn't reply. What could I even say to someone like that? It hurt though. I'd spent years at their house. I made holiday meals with his mother, watched football with his dad. I had once believed they were going to become my family, but now I saw it more clearly. They had protected him, not because he was innocent, but because they couldn't bear to face what he really was. So I stayed quiet. I focused on Jenny and the small space she cleared out for me in her guest room. I helped her cook, played with her little boy, and started going to a local support group on Tuesday nights. Every night, I wrote in my journal, just like I had before, but now it wasn't about surviving. It was about healing. One night, maybe 2 weeks after I left, I realized something. I had slept the whole night through. No jumping awake at 3 a.m., no bad dreams, no feeling of danger crawling up my spine, just sleep. And that, for me, was the first real sign I was going to be okay. I don't think about the slap much anymore. It happened. Yes, it hurt. But it wasn't the worst thing Cole ever did to me. It was just the loudest, the most public. The moment he thought he could break me in front of everyone, and I'd still come crawling back. But I didn't. What I think about more is what came after. The lawyer who looked me in the eye and said, "You have enough." The journal I'd been writing in late at night, shaking with fear but writing anyway. The way I held the pen like a weapon, because in a way it was. I think about the silence after I walked out of that party. The way no one stopped me, not to check if I was okay, not to help, just silence. That silence became my beginning. People talk about revenge like it's fire, like it's burning something down. But mine didn't look like that. Mine was steady, quiet. It was filling out a restraining order form while my hands shook. It was taking back my space, my time, my sleep. It was telling Jenny, yes, I need help, and not feeling ashamed. I used to think love was about sacrifice, how much I could take, how quiet I could be. But now I know love starts with how you treat yourself. And for a long time, I didn't love myself enough to leave. Now I do. I walk different, breathe different. I still cry sometimes, but not because I'm afraid. I cry because I made it out, and I'm proud of the girl who did. The girl who kept the journal. The girl who got a lawyer. The girl who didn't answer his calls. Cole wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone. He wanted them to see me fall apart. But now, I hope they remember something else. I hope they remember how I stood up, grabbed my things, and walked out. No screaming, no drama, just strength. That's the story I tell now. Not about pain, but about power. Not about what he took, but about what I gave back to myself. And I'm never giving it away again. Do you think Samantha did the right thing by walking away and reclaiming her power? Or should she have tried to fix things with Cole? Tell me what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss one.